there is still a world where at the end of the year, if Bobby's offense takes a leap, right? He has one of these hot months in June, July, like he's done in past years, on top of being a high-level base runner, on top of being the best defender in the sport, he's going to have an 8+ wins above replacement. It's not a WAR award, but it is an approximation of value. It shows he is still, regardless of the Royals' shortcomings, that he is still one of the best players in the sport and a deserving MVP candidate. One Royal way back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in and making this a part of your day whenever you are listening to this, however you consume it. Thank you very much. The season is what it is at this point, folks, but we're not stopping now. It's June 16th. We still got a lot of baseball to talk about over the next couple of months. So I'm going to do a full dive on the injuries that have piled up for this team and timelines expected, that sort of deal. I don't feel like recapping the first two games of the National Series because at this point, why does it matter? But it is what it is, folks. And then on the other half of the show after the break, yes, I know the season is what it is. You guys may be tuning out, and I wouldn't blame you. Getting ready for football season, watching the World Cup, getting ready for college football, however you want to do it. But there are still things I think that are worth watching the rest of the way as we head into the end of this year and then into 2027 and beyond that can still shape the future of this team. And I'll lay out some of the things I'll be watching as we move forward. Before we get into all that, be sure to like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms. Hit those notification bells on the audio and video side so you know when these shows go up. Or when we go live, especially have the YouTube notifications up so you know when we go live for post-game shows. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review over on the audio side. We can't thank you guys enough for that support. It does help this channel grow so more people see us. So the Royals have lost the first two games of the series to the Washington Nationals. They lost tonight 6-4. Tie game into the 7th inning, and Daniel Lynch gave up a 3-run home run right after the Royals tied it. And then last night, they lost 7-3. A 5-run 5th inning did the Royals in that one. At this point, the Royals sit at 29-45. The only team with a worse record by winning percentage in the league is the Colorado Rockies. The Royals have the worst record by win percentage in the American League. They have the worst run differential in the league, in the American League, third worst in baseball behind the San Francisco Giants and the Colorado Rockies, who are a distant last place at -91. Talked about how much of a disaster this season is, and that just kind of lays it out for you right there. So, yeah, I know you guys can hear it in my voice right now. There's no reason to try and sugarcoat it. There's no reason to try and but it. It's a disaster. There's no other way to put it. A part of the story has been the injuries. It is not the reason why this team is this bad, because even before the injuries started to pile up, this team still was not playing well. So it's just part of the story at this point. It's a season from hell in a lot of different areas. But I do want to give a full kind of audit and breakdown of the guys that are on the injured list and what their timeline is looking back moving forward. This is all information from Royals.com. This is the transaction injury report that Andy Rogers puts together. She does great work, even if I know the team is not good. I know that it's hard to follow this team. Please continue to support the work that like Andy Rogers and Jalen Thompson do, covering this team on a day-to-day basis. Start with Seth Lugo. I'm just going to go on down the list here to the main guys that are on here. Isaac Lugo went on the concussion injured list after taking the line drive off the forehead in the Rangers series. They skipped his start. That would have been on Monday. That's why Mitch Spence had the spot start. But he threw a bullpen today. It was a 2-up just to kind of get back on the mound and feel it a little bit. But he is expected to return at the end of this week and make his regular rotation spot there. So good news on that front that he is okay, that it wasn't a longer injury and just skip one start, get back to 100% and get moving. So that is good to see, just because when you see something that traumatic and scary, you kind of assume the worst. So for him to only really miss one start there is a minor miracle in some ways. Really bad news once again on the Cole Ragans front. It's that valgus extension overload, pitcher's elbow, whatever you want to call it. Left elbow impingement is the official injury. And he's been on the injured list since May 8th. He did a rehab assignment at the end of May and then was shut down from that because he didn't rebound the way that they were hoping, and then started playing catch again and was trying to build back up and maybe move back toward another rehab assignment. Experienced more discomfort on June 12th. He had an MRI taken Monday the 15th that had some unclear results. So they're going to a second opinion to try and find a concrete answer. It's obviously unfortunate. It's brutal for a number of reasons, given the amount of injuries that Cole Ragans has faced in his career, 2 Tommy John surgeries and all that. It makes me, in some ways, kind of remove Cole Ragans from the 2026 conversation about this season. I just want him to try and get healthy just for his own sake, not even for the Royals' sake at this point, because the amount of mental toll that I'm sure that takes, the not again sort of situation, given the amount of elbow and shoulder and whatever else injuries that he's faced last 2 years, and then previously when he was still in the Rangers organization. I just want to see him get healthy because he's really fun to watch when he is on the mound, even if it doesn't help the Royals this year. Just beyond that, just getting back on a big league mound is what it's more about at this point. We talked a little bit about this on Saturday with Vinny. In the post-game show, we knew at the time that it was a hamate injury in his right hand. He had surgery on Sunday morning to remove that broken hamate bone. It's a 4 to 6 week return to play timeline. Now, I imagine it's going to be longer than that, given rehab assignment, comfortability, whatever else, and that's assuming no setbacks. So that would put it about the beginning of August, thereabout, when Vinny comes back, at best case scenario. But who knows? And what is he going to look like post that injury? It's an injury where you have to grip a bat and then feel comfortable swinging the bat hard again with that bone either repaired or not there, right? And that's an injury that zaps power. And if you're a first baseman, especially one like Vinny, power has to be a part of your game. And if it's not, and it really hasn't been, he only has 6 home runs to this point in the year, it's going to be really tough. And for now, Cags is your first baseman. Hope Vinny can get back and be healthy, because he does matter quite a bit to this team, both on the field, off the field. But this is going to take up a good chunk of the year. Another Chris Bubich update. He threw a rehab assignment last weekend in Omaha. It did not go well. He got knocked around pretty good. More than anything, we're just hoping that he was going to come out of it healthy. This time he suffered a setback from what was a elbow soreness, forearm, something. Felt it in his shoulder after the assignment, after the rehab start. Had an MRI on June 9th, came back clean, so it's just a setback in getting going, but it doesn't sound like it's as significant as what Cole was going through. But again, it's significant because this is a walk year for Chris Bubich. And if you're the Royals at this point, you're hoping maybe you can trade him to a contender and get some value for him, since I highly doubt he ends up coming back to Kansas City. Even with the injuries, I don't see how that is the case. So this is on multiple fronts pretty significant. Hopefully we'll know more over the next couple of days, and if he starts throwing again, hopefully at the end of the month we're able to see him again, but who knows? He's been on the injured list since May 18th. Nick Mears had some imaging done on his shoulder, just an inflammation. He's began a throwing program as of about a week ago. So he could, he's on the way back. Carlos Estevez went on the 60-day injured list on June 15th. He began playing catch again at the end of May and is amping up his intensity and a volume on a flat ground throwing session as of this past weekend. But again, like we've talked about, kind of removed him from, my mind in that way. Haven't really heard much on the Kyle Isbell front regarding the grade 3 plantar fasciitis, the tear to his left plantar fasciitis. The timeline, the expected return on the website shows July or later. I imagine it's later, given that a grade 3 is a pretty severe tear of that, and there's a level of comfortability running again that we have to feel. So Cameron Meisner is going to be the center fielder. Lane Thomas is going to get some time as well. And then tonight, Michael Garcia, who has been hurting and dealing with a bunch of different stuff throughout this season, wrist, a hand, the hamstring in Texas that he's been playing through, and then tonight left the game. He was really favoring his left hand, and they called it left hand soreness. He left the game. The team announced it was left hand soreness. We'll see what that ends up looking like over the next couple of days as well. But it just, again, it kind of tacks on another thing of this team, just the injuries piling up. And like I said earlier, like, the injuries are not an excuse, but it's part of the story of the season. And it is, but this team wasn't playing well even when Vinny was healthy, when Michael was healthy, when Cole and Bubic were both in the rotation. Like, they had not been playing well for most of the season, and the record reflects that, 29-45. Like, there's more to this than just the injuries, and it can't be an excuse as we move forward. It can't be an excuse after the season of, well, we would have been better, but the X, Y, and Z guys were hurt, and we feel like with the team we have moving forward, we still feel confident in that group. Like, that can't be the case. It just can't, flatly, because there's more to this than just the guys that were hurt. Go ahead and take our break now, and then we'll talk about the things that I'm still going to be looking forward to watching throughout the remainder of the season right after this.
The attorneys at Northland Injury Law have been serving the Kansas City area for over 40 years, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. They want to help you, and we don't get paid unless we get money for you. If you have a case, call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878 now.
With Yucca Color Bar, what we're offering is luxury color services, but we're doing it on our client schedules. Didn't want to feel like or be a traditional salon. We wanted it to really feel like something completely different, especially for the Kansas City area. What we were trying to do is trying to find a brick and mortar that we could put a salon in. And it got complicated. And so what we ended up doing was pivoting, and we went into like a business acquisition mode where we were going to find a hair salon and then we were going to turn it into what we wanted to do. And Emprise was 100% behind that.
Like, we didn't just have a contact, we had a team, and they cared. And
we never sat in limbo at all with Emprise. They pushed us through, they helped us, support us. And not only that, but they've been our biggest cheerleaders since the day one.
Everybody who wanted our money, it was very difficult. It was very challenging part of it. But the people who were giving us the money, Emprise Bank, that was the easiest part. So we will always be grateful to Emprise.
I'm Cricket.
I'm JC.
And together we're the owners of Yucca Color Bar.
Come see us at Park Place.
David Starnes Allstate Insurance is a proud partner of KC Sports Network, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. If you are looking for new coverage or something that better suits your home, auto, health, or any of your other insurance needs, give Dave and his team a call. Elevate your coverage and be worry-free with David Starnes Allstate Insurance.
You know that moment, the one when you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at the gas station 3 states away. Well, I've been there too. But then I found Shady Rays and it changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life. Seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose them or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now I can actually wear my sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at the concerts, on the boat, wherever. They have sunglasses for golfing, fishing, hiking, and biking, even sunglasses for kids. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Go to shadyrays.com and use code KCSN for 40% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Again, thank you guys very much for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning, like, rate, subscribe, review, and hit those notification bells as we go forward. Okay. Season is what it is. Record is what it is. Still a lot of baseball left. And if you still believe in the future of this team, there's still some stories to watch, right? I'm going to be watching more on an individual basis than a team basis at this point, because the team is what it is. Season is what it is. And no point in harping on it and dwelling on it, because it's been pretty much decided at this point, right? Like, it's just how I'm going to decide to view this as we go forward. You do what you want. First thing I'm going to be watching is Bobby's MVP campaign. With Aaron Judge out, it's pretty wide open right now. Yordan Alvarez is leading. He's minus money right now to be MVP, but Nick Kurtz, the A's, and Bobby Witt Jr. are, in that range. And then after that, it drops off pretty significantly. So Bobby's got a chance to be an MVP finalist again, and there's still a world where he wins it. And I know that people are going to, if you're listening to this and you say, well, the team sucks, so Bobby's not going to win it. It's not how it works in baseball. Like, if you want to use the unfortunate Mike Trout comp that is getting thrown around more and more when it comes to Bobby Witt Jr. being an awesome top 3 player in the sport on a bad team. When Mike Trout won his first MVP in 2014, the team was really good. That was the year they won 98 games and the Royals dispatched of them in the division series. But then when he won his second in 2016, they won 74 games. They were 74 and 88. They were a really underachieving team. And then he won it again in 2019, and they won 70 games. They were a 70 and 92 team, or 72 and 90. There is still a world where at the end of the year, if Bobby's offense takes a leap, right, he has one of these hot months in June, July, like he's done in past years, on top of being a high-level base runner, on top of being the best defender in the sport, he's going to have an 8+ wins above replacement. It's not a WAR award, but it is an approximation of value. It shows he is still, regardless of the Royals' shortcomings, that he is still one of the best players in the sport and a deserving MVP candidate. I want to see the offense continue to jump because I think it's in there. And he slumped there for a little bit during that little bit of the road trip, and then the Rangers and Houston series. He started to pick it up at the end of that Houston series, like get out of the funk he was in. And then three more hits tonight. I think he had at least one last night. So we're starting to see it come back for him a little bit. The power starts to come, and we start to see the ball fly over the fence. In addition to the stolen bases and the elite defense, he can get right back in this thing as well. Because Yordan's leading he's leading right now because the offense is crazy, but I don't even think Houston at this point is in a wild card spot. Like, they're 4 games out of the wild card right now, and they're 33 and 41. So they're not necessarily world beaters either, but he's having a great season on an underachieving team as well. So that's where that is at. So that is one thing to watch. Like, if you're going to watch anything, just enjoy watching Bobby Witt Jr. play baseball, because he is one of the best players in the sport. He will get, he gets people to the television set. He does. And that's going to be, the number one thing I'm watching. Number 2, how much of a leap does Jac Caglianone take year 1 to year 2? We have seen it start to come for him a little bit. It's not fully formed, but he is going to get pretty much everyday chances right now. Like, the platooning stuff, we talked about this last week. Like, there isn't a lot of reason to at this point. The stats against lefties and righties, from a run value standpoint, is roughly the same. Had a couple ugly at-bats against Foster Griffin tonight, where he just kind of flipped breaking balls into the other batter's box. And he was swinging at it, but the weighted runs created plus is 116. He's up over a win above replacement last year after being minus 1.6 last year. So he's been significantly better offensively this year. We're starting to see the power come. We're starting to see the confidence come. He's going to get opportunities at first base more now with Vinny on the shelf. It seems like he's going to kind of move back and forth. He played right field last night, first base today, so kind of breaks things up a little chance to get off his legs a little bit playing first base now. But do we continue to see the power output? Do we see some of him clean up some of these at bats against left-handed pitching? I know the triple slash is what it is, but he doesn't walk against left-handed pitching, and he strikes out way more against lefties than he does righties. So can we see him put together some better plate appearances against lefties? Can we continue to see him produce now that he's hitting 3 in the lineup? He is, from a profile perspective, kind of a built-in a lab 3-hole hitter. Can he show that he can be that moving forward? That he can be the guy that can hit behind Bobby Witt Jr. for the next half decade? Is that in there for him? Do we start to see signs of that? Because they are not similar players, but I think their path can be there and has been in some ways. Jack had a way worse rookie season than Bobby did, but Bobby underachieved relative to his talent level in his first year. And then even after the first couple of months of his 2023 season, the year 2, it was like, okay, he's incredibly talented. The tools are crazy. How good is he really, though? And then by June of his second year, he took off and has become the player we know now, the MVP type player. Jack, it took even a couple of months for him. You saw a couple of flashes in there, but it really wasn't really consistent until middle of May. You started to see the jump, and then it really started to take off once the calendar flipped to June. That is like, oh, that's the type of player he can be. And it's still not fully formed, but it's in there. And that to me shows that this is something that is possible, that he can, he has a crazy high ceiling. He probably has the second highest ceiling of any player on this team right now. It's him and then Bobby, Bobby and then him, I should say. And if he's able to get there, then I think it gives you some hope moving forward that he can be the second best player on a playoff team, that he can be a guy that can hit 35, 40 home runs, especially if we see the power really start to increase with more consistency. We're starting to see those outcomes a little bit more, but if they start to come with regularity, then we're having a much different conversation about where Jac Caglianone sits as part of the future of this organization. And I do believe that he is going to get there, and the rest of this season is going to be a coming out party for Jac Caglianone and start to show some of that ceiling of the type of player that he is. Number 3 thing I'm going to be watching is Luinder Avila getting a longer look in the starting rotation. I've talked about it a lot, that I think Luinder Avila's best role in the big leagues is in the bullpen. Talked about that quite a bit. But given the slew of injuries to the rotation, 2/5 of it have been on the shelf for a while and one had to skip a start. Luinder Avila is getting chances now because he was in the bullpen for a little bit. It looked like he had started to get into that bullpen role, and then they needed him to be in the rotation, and now he's getting that opportunity. And then you factor in beginning of August, about 5-ish weeks from now, there's a chance that Michael Wacha is somewhere else. There's a chance potentially Seth Lugo is pitching somewhere else. There's a chance that Chris Bubich, if he comes back healthy, is pitching somewhere else. There are innings that are needed in this rotation. Noah Cameron is providing some of that. Stephen Kolek is certainly providing some of that. But they need more guys. They need more innings. And there are innings there for Luinder Avila to show I'm not just a reliever. I can start at the big league level. I am skeptical of that, but the opportunity is going to be there to prove me wrong. He had a couple of really good outings in a row in Cincinnati and in Minnesota, and then he had the outing against the Rangers or against the Astros where he didn't get out of the first inning and gave up eight or 9 runs. And it was really ugly. And it was like, okay, that's, it confirms my priors a little bit. But if he gets the chance to maybe settle in instead of kind of doing the back and forth between the bullpen and starting, they just say like, hey, you're going to start no matter what. Every 5th day, the rest of the year, this is your opportunity to show us that you can do it. I'll be curious if he can. Because I think the stuff absolutely plays at the big league level, one way or another. Even if it's not as a starter, the stuff, when you watch him pitch, you can see that it plays. The fastball, it has an explosive arm side life to it. He has the big curveball that can play. He's starting to throw the slider a little bit more now. He's getting some feel for a changeup. And it's all like, if he can just put it all together, I think we are trending towards him being a part of the future in some capacity. I think it's going to be more as a reliever, but we'll see what he can do as a starter. It's there, the stuff's there, and now the opportunity is there. Because there really wasn't that opportunity at the beginning of the year. And that's why he started the year in AAA. He was getting some starts. And then they needed innings in the bullpen. He showed you. He flashed some high-level 1-2 inning spurts. But now they need him, hey, give us 5, give us 6 if you can. Can we see if your velo holds? Can you throw 98 in the 5th inning? Can you flash that type of velocity over the course of a start? If you can, then the stuff plays a lot better. But if it's 94, 95 instead of 97, 98, those couple of ticks really matter for a guy that doesn't have elite fastball shape and is really a sinker guy that throws hard, right? It's a little different in that way. If the secondary start to play and he's able to not walk guys, because that's the biggest thing right now, which is honing the stuff in the strike zone, which all young pitchers go through. He's 24 years old. He's thrown 46 innings in the big leagues, between the end of last year and this year. A lot of time for him to try and figure it out. And this is going to be as good of an opportunity as he'll probably get to show that he can be a starter in the big leagues. Number 4. Who can show any sort of trust in the bullpen to build around for next season? They made a trade for Connor Siebold because they need arms. Connor Siebold has not done much in his big league career. In 138 career innings, mostly with the Rockies in 2023, 87 of those 138 innings. He's thrown for the Royals will be his 5th team since the beginning of last season. It's a 7.30 career ERA. But they need innings from people. Not going to act like it's a part of the future. I'm not going to. This is like when they signed Tucker Davidson a couple of years ago. Like, they need innings from somebody. They gave Rich Hill innings last year because they needed it. So this is... And part of this as well is, like, who is a part of the future of the bullpen next year? Because Schreiber's on the last year of his deal. I would venture to guess that he is moved at the deadline as a rental. We talked about Daniel Lynch, and it's a year and a half, and he's pitching really well. I know he's your best reliever right now, but he may be able to net you something. And with the injuries to guys that you potentially looked to, that could have been a part of the conversation to be moved, that are now hurt, he may be your best option to go and get something legitimate at the trade deadline to help you maybe in the immediate or, go and get a decent level prospect. I don't think Lucas Erceg is part of this, given what I've seen this year. He's a completely different pitcher from what he was 2 years ago. And it may be the end of the line. Like, it's unfortunate. You never want to call it on a guy too early, but even when he's moved out of the higher leverage roles, he still hasn't pitched great. Still walking guys. Still giving up hits. Not really getting a lot of swing and miss or strikeouts. Maybe it's Steven Cruz. I've always been a believer in the stuff. And he's pitched better as of late. It's not incredibly high-level stuff. But from the production standpoint, the stuff itself is, it's 98 to 100 with a cutter that's 95 and the slider is wipeout when it's in the strike zone. But that's also part of it, is being in the strike zone and not being in the middle of the strike zone, considering how many different times he has giving up home runs this year when that was really not a part of his game at all at any point in his big league career. But the whiff and the strikeout rate is certainly there. 30% strikeout rate, 34.5% whiff. Like that's why you bet on stuff a lot of times, because it plays, especially in the bullpen, right? Like, bet on stuff and not pitchability in the bullpen. It's like, that's been some part of, I think, why, as we talked the other day, like betting on some older, been there, done that better instead of maybe on the teetering on the end of their prime, is that when they lose the stuff, the pitchability maybe there, but stuff isn't as good. And you need swing and miss. You need strikeouts at the end of games. Steven Cruz can provide that. I am incredibly intrigued by Beckway because listen, the ability to punch dudes out, not in question with this guy, right? Like, he has thrown 5 1/3 in the big leagues and he struck out 8 guys. It's a 33% strikeout rate and a 37.5% whiff rate. It's there. But the walks have killed him at basically every level. And when they gave him a 4-5 run lead, or it might have even been 6-0. And he nearly gave up the game in Minnesota. But it's also in a very small sample, 53% ground ball rate. Maybe there's something there with him. But I can't act like I'm not intrigued by the small sample and the stuff that's with it. The cutter, it's a cutter, sinker, four seam. Like, he manipulates it all around the zone, and the sinker and the fast and the four seam are up around 97, 98 with the big sweeper that goes off of it. I'll be really, he's going to be one of the more curious cases as we go forward. Can't act like I'm not intrigued by it. I don't know who else really I'm like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely part of the future. Like, maybe Nick Mears, just because he's been around for a little bit, and and when he has pitched, he's had moments. Alex Lang could come back, but again, I don't know what to make of how long it's viable for him to pitch at the end of some of these games. That's going to be one of the biggest questions as we go forward, to me, is who's going to get outs in this bullpen next year? Who's going to be your closer? Who's going to be your high leverage guys, especially if they trade a Daniel Lynch, which I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but if they do trade him, then you even have more questions of like, man, who is really going to be handling the high leverage? Because we've kind of had that idea for the last couple of years. Matt Straum's a free agent after this year. I thought maybe he might be an extension candidate if he pitched well, but looks like he might be at the end of the rope, for his prime, and you don't want to give that guy more. I don't know. I don't see a world where he gets another deal back in Kansas City. This is where you hope that like a Dennis Colleran can figure it out in Northwest Arkansas and maybe give you some innings at the end of the year. Because again, like, from a stuff perspective, I'm all in. But in Northwest Arkansas this year, in 26 1/3 innings, he's walking more guys than he struck out, and he's got an 8.2 ERA. Like, that's obviously not going to play, even if you think the stuff is really good. This is where, maybe you hope that like an LP Langevin, who was interviewing, friend of the Royals Pipeline podcast. And he's got 47 strikeouts in 26 innings, and that's great, but he's also got 20 walks. It's great to have a lot of stuff, but if you can't limit traffic, that's going to be a major concern. So we'll see who's going to be able to get outs for this team. Someone has to, certainly. And then the last thing I'm going to be watching for, and then we'll get out of here. I've mentioned a little bit about the trade deadline. We're still a little ways away from that. But I do wonder how hard they hit the reset button. That's going to be what I'm going to watch for on August 3rd and in the days leading up to it. Because there are guys that they're going to take calls on, that they're going to trade, that will not be on this team, at the end of July, beginning of August. I would imagine, especially the rental guys, Marte, Lane Thomas, John Schreiber, those three, and then you have your guys with control, your Daniel Lynch, Chris Bubich is also a rental. But I wonder how hard do they hit it? Because it may sound futile to some of y'all, but they're not going to punt on this. They're not going to wave the white flag. Because if they do, then things are really uncomfortable. Right? Like that would mean you're trading serious core pieces. This team doesn't want to do that. I know they don't. This ownership group doesn't want to do that. Because when you have a guy like Bobby Witt Jr., you need to do everything you can to try and capitalize on this window. And they fell on their face this year. They fell short last year. You thought maybe, some variance and some batted ball luck didn't go our way last year. We feel good about the team we're at. And I believed it, right? I certainly thought that coming into the year. And I'm not alone in that. People throughout nationally thought that this was going to be a team that was going to compete in the AL Central and compete for the playoffs. And we all have egg on our face right now. It's not just people around Kansas City. But as futile as it may sound, they're not going to run it back, but they are going to try and build around the core of Bobby and Carter and Jack, and Michael, and whoever else they think can get this team back to the playoffs in 2027. They won 56 games and then they won 86 the next year. Like, it's not crazy to think that they can't do it in the next year or two. And they can't make a run when you have a player like Bobby Witt Jr. And so if you're expecting something crazy at the end of July, I would lower your expectations in that regard. Because I don't think we're going to see a big shocker at the deadline for Kansas City. I just don't. And it's going to be really fascinating. Like, I'm going to be live, at the deadline, and we'll see what happens. There's stunners every now and then. I wouldn't expect anything incredibly stunning that the Royals do. Not that they're going to stand pat, not that they're going to try and make a run at this thing with 20 games below 500 at the end of July. Like, it's not going to be that. But I wouldn't expect anything crazy. We'll see what they end up doing. And what they're able to do. And if you want to have your criticisms of JJ Picollo as GM, there's certainly some stuff. But one thing I think he has done well is handle the trade deadline. I think he's handled it well the last couple of years. Not every GM is 100% hit rate on trades. But he got Cole Reagans for Aroldis Chapman, and that paid immediate dividends getting to the postseason and being a top 4 Cy Young guy in 2024. And a huge reason why that he was a huge reason why that team did what they did. Easy to retcon now that he's been hurt for the last couple of years, but you still make that trade 10 out of 10 times. In 24, he got Lucas Erceg. I know it doesn't look great now, but that Lucas Erceg is a major reason why that team won the playoffs. Went to the playoffs. He sold high on Freddie Fermin and got Stephen Kolek and Ryan Berger. One of those guys is really showing that he can handle the big league level. One guy flashed it before he got hurt. Yes, the Bailey Falter trade blew up in his face. We gave up nothing for him. Evan Sisk is okay, but are you really going to sit here and be that upset about trading Evan Sisk? Okay. We'll see what he ends up doing, but in that regard, if there's one thing I feel confident in is that he's going to be able to handle the deadline in a pretty good way. If you really think JJ Picollo's not that good at his job, it could be worse. He could be Craig Breslow. Go check out how he's doing in Boston right now. If you just want a matter of perspective outside of Kansas City. I'm rambling. I'm tired. I'm frustrated with watching this baseball team. But still got a lot of baseball to go. All right. That's going to do it for this show. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Thursday night, we will be live after the final out of the Cardinals-Royals game. That's going to be a Thursday, Friday, Sunday series because of the World Cup game. I believe it's Ecuador and Curacao on Saturday. So I hope, and if you're trying to watch World Cup, shoot, I have it on right over here. Messi just got a hat trick. That's pretty cool. In Kansas City, no less, at Kansas City Stadium, Arrowhead. Very cool to see our city on display with that. Have a great one, everybody, and we'll talk later this week.